Welcome to Season 6 of Business Mentorship, Keepin It Real. Introducing corporate leaders who've taken the leap to business owner, introducing their great idea in our guest blog, found on shareyourstories.online. Our guest joins us from San Jose, California. Steve Ramona is a podcast host who's considered a super connector, specializing in building partnerships through personalized introductions. The law of increase has become his personal mission as he works with people around the world. Let's find out how Steve's podcast, Doing Business with a Servant's Heart, has created an audience of over 40,000 people per episode and growing. It's my pleasure to introduce and welcome Steve.
Thank you, Trish. I'm so pumped up to be here today.
You know, I have to tell you, my friend, first of all, congratulations and kudos to you for giving people a voice and a platform to share their stories that is now giving you an audience of 40,000 people and growing. And I'm going to say, just take a quick moment because I did get a question from our viewing and listening audience. And I'm just going to put my glasses on so I can be able to read this thing here. So the question is, Steve, how do you get the guests on your show to share their stories?
Fantastic. Whoever sent that question in, I hear it all the time, and I have the secret sauce. Ask.
Okay. Ask. That simple? Come on. It's got to be more difficult than that.
Ask. I'll give you a quick story because we're a store, and that's why I love the show audience. You better be listening because I am. Not just this show, but all the shows Trish does. So I had a gentleman, Zach Beach, on my show about 3-4 months ago. And going through his stuff briefly, I don't spend a lot of time on that because I want to talk to my guest.
Yeah.
You know, LinkedIn and all that, it's great, but that's another secret sauce. I want to just delve into a conversation. And I saw that he worked with Forbes Riley, who's done billions of dollars, was a fitness guru back in the day. We get done with the show. He was so pumped about the show. Thank you. And we're doing our accolades and thanking him. And I just asked, I saw, you have Forbes Riley in your guest list. Love to have her on. No problem. Hour later, I got an email introduction. She was on 3 days later on my podcast.
Wow, that's pretty
Billionaire.
Cool.
Somebody is very well known. And
that's pretty cool.
Another quick story, Lee Steinberg, the Jerry Maguire movie that was crafted around his story of sports agent, NFL agent, Patrick Mahomes agent, and people know NFL. He reached out and thanked me for an anniversary. I just said, Lee, I love your story. Would you be on my podcast? Now, this guy's done billions of dollars of salary. A movie's been done by him.
Sure.
Fire right back. Hey, I'll reach out. Here's Adam's email. Reach out. And 3 weeks later, he was on my podcast.
Isn't that cool?
Ask.
So, isn't that wonderful that there are good people in the world who believe in making connections, right? I think at this particular point in time, we're concentrating too much on the negative and we're forgetting all the really amazing people out there. I mean, you're doing a wonderful thing. You're asking for guests. You're giving, regular people like myself an opportunity to be inspired by some of the stories that are being shared on your podcast. What are the type of comments that you may be getting from people who are in your audience and watch your show?
Well, podcast hosts out there are people thinking about podcasts. Here's a great story why I love this. And I love what you do. And you're not a regular person, Trish. You're a rock star. And I'm so glad we've partnered up. New Year's Day, we went to a party with me and my wife, her friend, her best friend at her parents' house and her brother's house. And the brother's sister, who I've known a little bit, didn't know much about me, walked up and goes, you have a podcast, don't you? I said, yeah. Doing Business with a Servant's Heart? Yeah, that's my podcast. She goes, oh my God, I saw it on Instagram. I didn't know it was you. I love your stories. You've motivated me, inspired me. I am so fired up. I shared with others. To me, that's the gift of a podcast. We can impact other people. Hope we do that today. I'm sure we will. But share these gifts, these links of podcasts to people when you talk to them, because that's a servant's heart.
What's really interesting. So tell me, as the host, because we both have a show, we both host the show. Give me, our readers, our viewing and listening audience, a little behind the scenes on what does it do for Steve? Do you get anything out of the interview process? Like, I know there's a process involved in getting people to share their stories, but how does it affect Steve, the person?
Trish, I'm speechless. I'm rarely speechless, but that's an incredible question because that's the power of podcasting from the host side. Yeah, me and you'd love to get sponsors. Me and you'd love to get paid. Me and you love, and it's happened for me. But it's not my focus. It's not my intentionality is the guest. But I've learned so much from my guest. I built partnerships. I have $1 billion business right now because of my podcast. Think about that. I'm in the renewable energy space because some of my guests reached out to me and want to work with me.
Wow.
I've reached out for other things because when you do a podcast, what are you doing? You're learning about their desires, their passions, their challenges. You're highlighting them to your network. Yeah, they're going to highlight me to their network. That's the yin and yang of it.
Yeah.
So when you get done with a podcast, the energy's off the charts. I say 95% of the time we're talking, oh, we're great. Well, you said this, Joe, and this. And by the way, I've got a referral for you. We're starting to really serve each other. And I just open the door and say, and I just told you a story. I had a health scare. And I didn't finish the story with you. I wanted to do it here. Is one of my guests, Eric Collette, who works with the NFL, but he's a brain specialist. He's actually curing Alzheimer's and dementia, where people are leaving nursing homes and going back to their regular homes. It's blowing me. Oh, it's blowing me away. So he got done. I told him, here's the diagnosis I got. He goes, Steve, I'll take care of it. Here's my system for free for a year. Wasn't a lot of money, but here, take it. Here's some tips. And as I told you my results today, I'm off diabetes drugs in the first 9 weeks. Most people take 9 months to a year. Now, if I didn't have a podcast, I didn't meet Eric, I may be dealing with this situation and the emotional and all that happens when you get a diagnosis.
Sure. In a different way.
That's a high
right?
end. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, you led your story with your network is your net worth. And so you are really living that.
Yes. Every day. And I want to be careful, but this is a story. I used to run networking groups, love them, help them, but they're not going to scale you. I call them they're your college.
They're the feel good experience.
Thank you. I'm glad you said that. And there's nothing wrong with them. If you're starting out or happy where you're at, networking groups are great. That's where you build your network. But if you want to grow or scale, you need to go to the MBA. And that's get your MBA. And that is, to me, a podcast. I control who comes to my network. I control who is in my network. I know all about them instead of a quick, hey, 30-second pitch, which is, I'm not complaining.
Yep.
That's where that's at. The podcast is a completely different level. And you can start a podcast for free and do it for free and build this network. And I mentor podcast hosts and potential podcast hosts every month for free for an hour.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I didn't know you did that.
Yes.
That's great information. Now, give our viewing and listening audience an idea of how many podcasts you actually have hosted, because that's really, consistency is key, right? So how many do you have up on your YouTube channel and you've shared on all the various different podcast channels?
In 2 years and a couple months, 700 podcasts.
Now, that is work, my friend. That is not for the faint of heart. That's making a huge commitment to networking yourself into a huge network, right?
Yes. It allows me to be more of a servant's heart, because if you want to have that as your passion, my maximum, I had a great guest yesterday that works with billionaires, like Doug Barron. It was just awesome talking about servants. He says, you've got to have maxims, not values. Values fluctuate. Maxims are non-negotiables. And my non-negotiable is I'm jumping on this podcast and I want to transform the podcast, transform the audience the best way you can. Maybe it's a little bit, maybe it's a lot, Trish.
Yeah, depends on the person, right?
Exactly. We can't control that. And that's another non-negotiable. We can't control people.
Yeah.
So it was in a quick story, which will help people. He told me, he says, before he married his wife, he told his wife, he says, you can sleep with anybody you want. And I can sleep with anybody I want. She's like, what? No. What are you talking about? We're not even married yet. Great story. And this is about maxims and non-negotiables. She goes, what are you talking about? I said, you're allowed. I can't control you, wife.
Yeah. You
can do that. But my non-negotiable is we're going to get divorced and we'll never be married again. I won't love you anymore. If you fall in love with, and it just, I'll use that. This is why I love doing podcasts. What a great story. What's your maxim? And a lot of people 90% of people, he says, don't have that, those non-negotiables.
You know, that's so true. Some people call them barriers, right? Like I've got, this is my barrier, my line in the sand, right? This is my line in the sand. You cross over that line and there's consequences for that.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, as humans and as individuals, we really do have to decide. I love your word maxims, because it's, you know, what's the maximum allowable within your own personal space, right?
Yeah.
Because we all have those barriers, or we all have those areas where we say, okay, I just can't go beyond this. It's not within my scope to go beyond this. But I don't think we really share them with the people that we spend a lot of time with. Do you?
Oh, no, we don't. And I've learned a lot from that show to help me with my relationship with my wife, which is another reason. Personally, it helps me because I get to learn. But here's the servant's heart, not the servitude. And that's a two different. Servitude is, hey, just step all over me. I used to do that. I don't ask anything. Here, I'll just give you all everything. And that's not what servant leadership, that's not being a servant is.
Right.
It's the boundaries or barriers. He calls them boundaries. You're so smart to say that because it's true. And you got to be non-negotiable. You work at somebody, you know, you're a manager at a company, and your non-negotiable is you're late 10 times in the month, we're going to let you go.
Right.
I don't know if that's right or wrong. There's nothing to do with that right or wrong. It's your non-negotiable. Like mine is, I'm going to try to transform people any way I can. The other ones, I can't control them. If they don't transform, that's not my problem, but I'm going to try.
Right. At least give them the tools, right? Make the tools available, you know, at least open our eyes to another way of thinking. How did you come up with the name for your actual podcast? You know, we spend so much time on marketing. We spend so much time trying to come up with the secret sauce to attract people. But the name of your podcast is so cool. So how did you come up with the name?
Great question. Oh my gosh, dude, it's a great story. I started with serving in business. I've been thinking about a name of like, you know, I've been serving people for 20 years. I've put $25 million in partnerships, helping people partner up, and so happy to do that. And so I started with that. And I was, again, in my network. I was in a mastermind meeting, and Rich Kozak, I'll say his name, shout out to Rich, changed my life. He goes, because we had met a couple of weeks earlier just to do a one-on-one and just see what we can help each other. He goes, kid, Steve, stop. I've talked to you. You're a servant. You're serving people in business, but you're doing it with a servant's heart, doing business with a servant's heart. He gave me the whole title.
Wow,
right,
that's pretty cool.
19 people were like, oh, yeah, that's it. So and great tip for the podcast hosts out there, people are, you can change the name of your podcast. People are doing it all the time. There's nothing written in stone in the 10 commandments that I'm stuck with serving in business. So that's where the story came from, another networking story.
That's so cool. You know, I think that we forget that the life that we lead and the journey that we're on is really related to the people that we meet.
Yeah.
And the conversations that we have, right? Because without that, we wouldn't be the people we become.
Yeah, let me add to that, Trish. This is the bridge to make it really powerful. And anybody can do this. I tell people I'm not special. I'm special because I'm taking action, which is the problem. But here's the thing, when you're treating people, you need to build a relationship. So I've treated people right. I've jumped on calls and mentored people, given them resource out of the blue. So many times people go, that's one of the best calls I've ever been on. And it was never, ever transactional.
Right.
It was transformational. That once you do that and just go out and serve with the transformational mindset, people are going to remember you. I got a referral 5 weeks ago. 5 weeks ago, I had met that person in a year, and I get this email, hey, you got to meet Steve Ramona. He's this, and Steve, I just met so-and-so. I think they'd be a great fit for your podcast. That's another way, referrals.
I really love that you've used two really important words that we always use in business. And one is transactional and the other is transformational. I don't think that we have ever put those two components together, because some people concentrate on the transaction and they forget, I always say there has to be more than just the money. So when we all get in business, obviously to make money, we have a lifestyle we're trying to support. We have families, food on the table, roof over your head. But that can't be the driving force for the business that you're running, because if it is, it becomes transactional.
Yep. And it's short-term considered long-term. You do a short, I sell you today, we jump on, we get to know each other for 5, okay, I'll buy your product, whatever it is.
Right.
How long are you going to stay? And how many referrals I'm going to get? Because are you going to refer me? You don't really know me.
Right.
I've talked to a number of coaches. They seem to be a lot of them come on my show. And the ones that have the 3, 4, 5-year client, imagine spending 10 years, 10,000 a year, and they're getting, 4 or 5 people paying that.
Right.
People out there like, yeah, I'll take that.
Right.
They built the relationship, because the short-term transaction doesn't. Now, some people may stay. That's not 100%. But on the probability side, that's what happens. But here's the thing people forget about. Build that relationship. Be transformational. They become a client. They stay with you. But how many referrals are these people getting? Lots of referrals. So now your network's like growing, and you're not marketing. You're not going to social media. You're not buying ads. You're not whatever. Still do that. I'm not saying not to do that. But I've received, Trish, 3 to 5 referrals daily for the last 20 months. Daily.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I mean,
I can look at, because
that is unbelievable.
There's your marketing right there. Treat people, because I treat people right. I don't expect the referrals, but when the Maya Angelou quote, I always forget, but it's about how you make people feel.
That's right.
And I know when I get done, I feel, and there's been, one-on-ones and meetings I've had that nothing's happened. That's going to happen.
Yeah, for sure. That's human nature.
Yeah, exactly. In my head, I just say next. Don't say it out loud, audience. Just next. Who's the next person I can transform?
Right. Right.
And then,
I absolutely love your methodology and your personal mantras and mission. And I really and truly think, Steve, that, we need more people to step out of the comfort zone to share their voice.
Please.
I know there's more people like you and I who have platforms for people to share, but I also get a lot of people who say, "Oh, I can't share that story. It's not. I don't want to tell anybody. I'm kind of embarrassed." So let's just quickly talk about failure, because you don't get to where you are in business without messing up every once in a while.
Yeah, well, let me tell you a story. I'm glad I'm on. I've got so many, because that's the podcast, but I've got a number of incredible traumas and obstacles people overcame. One was Rami Eltuan. Unfortunately, he passed away probably 8 weeks after our show. But he was homeless, 17 years old. He became a billionaire. He read one book, Think and Grow Rich. And then he wrote a book, How to Think and Grow Rich, How to Practice, which is a great book, by the way, audience. How to Think and Grow Rich. If you're a fan of Think and Grow Rich, Think and Grow Rich Foundation says the book's better than what Napoleon Hill wrote. But clearly homeless. He's building a city, and now his friend who I actually meet today, Chase, they're building a 1 million-person city for homeless and veterans who need help in California.
Wow. That's pretty
cool. So people have these stories. A real quick one, Serena. I love telling the story. 5 and 6 years old, her and her sister were sexually abused by her stepdad and mom through a satanic cult.
Wow.
Years later, she starts a marketing agency. She's married. Her husband becomes president. He dies by suicide 6 months later. No reason for her to be successful. She's now sitting on a very successful marketing agency. And get this, audience, she's reconciled with her mom and they're now best friends.
Wow. That's a story.
If she's telling that story, I could tell you everything about it. I could tell you about my health. I mean, There's no story probably to the level, and you can't levelize stories. That's as personal and as humble, as transparent you can be. And she's super successful. It's not like I'm telling this story and I'll never make any money. I'll never be successful. You're going to be more successful because now she's serving other people that may have similar type traumas.
Well, you know what? It makes you relatable, right?
Yeah.
It makes us relatable because we're all human and nobody has this perfect life. I mean, anybody who says they have a perfect life is really hiding the story behind the story, I think.
Facade. That's my
Yeah.
dad used to use that word all the time. They
Yeah.
have a facade. And people will get through that. Celebrities, it gets
For
through
sure.
that. Professional athletes,
Yeah.
we see them on the field. Not all. There's some great ones out there. I mean, Ryan Lotta my family worked with him. Great guy. Really wanted to help. But we're going to get caught eventually.
Yeah, for
Be
sure.
authentic
The
and
truth
genuine.
comes out, right?
Truth
The
comes
truth
out.
comes out. Now, one of the things we do in the guest blog, and thank you for sharing your story on our blog, is we ask folks to share 3 words of advice. And so why don't we wrap up our discussion today with you explaining to our viewing and listening audience why always be listening is important to you in your business. Audience,
ABL. Just remember ABL. Put it on your computer, put it on your phone when you're talking to people. It's so powerful. That's why I'm so successful today. I'm going to make more money I've ever made and serve more people because of ABL. And a tip I got from one of my guests is when people are talking, tap your thigh with your finger. And it slows you down so you don't go, you interrupt or you don't listen. It allows you to listen. Here's my principle. And audience, take a pad and paper out. Please write this down. I'm begging you. ASLA, ASLA principle. Ask, shut up, listen, ask. You talked about in the beginning, it's so well, these wonderful questions you asked. People go to me, well, shut up. Yeah, I'm listening. No. And here's the image, audience, you want to think about. A Zoom room with all the squares and people's screen goes black, or it's their picture or logo, whatever. Now, maybe they're going to the door, maybe they're going to the back, legitimate reason. But let's go deep down. Are they really listening to what that person's saying? No, because they're not there. When you listen, you can learn about that person and now you can transform them. I couldn't transform you, Trish, if I didn't know the stories and storytelling and how powerful they are. We had a great meeting. I learned all about, look where we are. We're partnering up. We're going to do some things together because I listen, but back at you, you listen to me as well. If you got that ping pong of listening back and forth, we want to jump in and go, oh, Trish, you need to buy my coaching program. You got a story, but this is what I do. Instead of going, Trish, I heard you say a couple of these things and do that with people. I heard a couple of things you said, do that on your podcast. People love to be seen and heard. And go, here's how I can help you. Here's someone I can introduce you to. I do it all the time. And it's the most powerful business tool in the world. You can spend millions on marketing, but this will really blow up your business. I'm going to just say it, blow up your business.
Well, I have to say, Steve, there's nothing more powerful than sharing stories and tips for helping people in business and in life. And I think you've done that tenfold today. So I'd like to thank you so much for joining us on Keeping It Real and giving me an opportunity to introduce you as the person behind the logo. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
To our viewing and listening audience, if you'd like to connect with our guest, you're going to find Steve's contact information in the description portion below. I'm Trish Tonai, author, artist, and the founder and host for the series. And we invite you to share your business story. Just visit our website, shareyourstories.online, and subscribe to our channel, Business Mentorship, Keeping It Real. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to meeting you next time when we share another great idea.